God bless you, dear ones. Welcome to the Word with Chester. Today we will begin studying chapter 20 of the book of Job. If time allots us, we will also read chapter 21. I'm grateful for all of you that log on to watch this ministry. Let me just, for our newcomers, let them know what we're doing. My dears, we're teaching through the Bible, verse by verse and chapter by chapter. Those many have been with us the entire time, but we actually started with the Gospels. We read through the from the book of St. Matthew all the way through the New Testament, and then on our way through the Old Testament, life demanded me to do something else, so I stopped for a time, but I rebroadcasted all of what we had already did, and when we got to the point where we had stopped the first time through, I began to teach again, and now we're in the book of Job, well on our way to completing our reading and teaching through the Bible. When we get to the book of Malachi or through the book of Malachi, we will have read and studied this Bible verse by verse and chapter by chapter. I encourage you to stay with us. If you do, your knowledge of God and His Word will grow to an ultimate. You'll find yourself having a closer walk with the Lord. Well, my dears, we're going to begin our study today in verse 1 of chapter 20. If you have your Bibles, it will be beneficial to you if you read along with us. The Bible reads in verse 1, "Then answered Zophar the Naamite and said," now for the benefit of those that you may have just logged on, let me let you know what is going on here. In reading through the book of Job, we find that after Job had lost everything, he had lost all of his material goods, his great wealth that he had once had, and also lost his children. His children were killed, and after such things happened, then God had another talk with Satan, and he gave Satan permission to attack Job's health. And Job's health went down. He had boils all over his body, from the crown of his head all the way down to the bottoms of his feet. He was with boils, and the stench that came from his body. Actually, he left where he lived and went out into a desolate area because of the stench. I guess my mind, he did not want others to have to endure what was coming from his body. So here, his friends, 3 of his friends came down to talk to them, and they had great dialogues with them. One spoke, and then Job rebutted or talked, and then another spoke, and Job rebutted and talked, and then another spoke, and Job rebutted and talked to them, and then they had a second time to speak. Right now we are in the second time where Zophar's final speech. So this is the last time that he will be speaking. This is his final speech, and his theme in his little talk is the portion of the wicked. And get the picture, when they came down, they were supposed to be consoling Job, but they did not console him. They were trying to prove that he was wicked. The reason these problems, or the problems that he had happened. Well, shall we begin again? I'll read verse 1 one more time. "Then answered Zophar the Naamite and said, Therefore do my thoughts cause me to answer, and for this I make haste." My thoughts now. Can you get the picture? He's heard everything that Job had to say, and not only has he heard everything that Job had to say, he heard everything that his other 2 friends had talked about. So they were in dialogue now. In verse 3, I have heard the rebuke that putteth me to shame, and the spirit of my understanding causes me to answer. And so he's letting Job know, I heard every word that you said. I've heard your rebuke toward me and our friends. I heard it, and I heard it very well, and it caused me to shame. Now in verse 4, knowest thou not this of old, since man was placed upon earth, that the triumphing of the wicked is short, and the joy of the hypocrite but for a moment. So he's now trying to get Job to recall their history, if you please. The triumphing of the wicked is short. Knowest thou this of old, since time was? If you could track the whole picture all the way back, our forefathers, if you please, where when they did right, they were blessed in so many words, but yet if they seem to do well, the triumphing of the wicked is short, and the joy of the hypocrite but for a moment. Can you get what he's saying to Job now? Though his excellency mount up to the heavens, and his head reaches into the clouds, yet he shall perish forever like his own dung. They who have seen him shall say, where is he? Now, can you get the picture? He's saying and talking about the hypocrite, how they look good for a while, and then after a while they don't look so good, or whatever they did becomes to nothing. So get the picture. He's likening what he's saying to what happened to Job. And can you see how hard that would be? They're supposed to be consoling you, but they're trying to prove to you why things happen the way they happen. In so many words, calling him wicked, calling him a hypocrite, and all of these words. Now let's read on in verse 8. He shall fly away like a dream, and shall not be found. Yea, he shall be chased away like a vision of the night. Now I'm going to read on now in verse 9. That I also which saw him shall see him no more, neither shall his place any more behold him. I'm continue reading. His children shall seek to please the poor, and his hands shall restore their goods. And this is kind of a low blow. Because this man knew that Job had lost all of his children. All of his children were killed. And so he's going to bring up such even at Job's lowest point. And keep this in mind, that it happens today. When you're at your lowest point, you'd be surprised who will come out and kick you again while you're down. They'll try to hurt you while you're down, or capitalize on you while you're down. Can you understand how people are? And this is what this man is doing while Job is down, saying all of these words. I'll read 10 again. His children shall seek to please the poor, and his hand shall restore their goods. I'm going to read on. His bones are full of the sins of his youth, which shall lie down with him in the dust. Though wickedness be sweet in his mouth, though he hide it under his tongue. Can you get what this man is saying? So this man, in his slickness, if you please, he starts to use proverbs and sayings of things of old, trying to get his point over to Job. I'm going to continue reading. We're in verse 13 now. Though he spared it and forsook it not, but keep it still within his mouth, yet his food in his body is turned. It is the gall of ass within him. Can you get the picture? In other words, he's saying, well, you did good for a while, you look good for a while, but can you see how the gall that was in you came out, how things change. In verse 14, yet his food and his body is turned. It is the gall of ass within him. Acid reflux, if you please. It just coming up. It's coming back up. His food went down, but yet coming back up. Let's read now in verse 15. He has swallowed down riches, and he shall vomit them up again. God shall cast them out of his belly. Let's read on. And he shall suck the poison of asp, the viper's tongue shall slay him. Can you see? This is what they're saying. This is what happens to the wicked. These evil things, hurtful things, is what happened to the wicked. I'm going to continue reading. He shall not see the rivers, the flood, the brooks of honey and butter. That which he labored for shall he restore, and shall not swallow it down. According to his substance shall the restitution be, and he shall not rejoice in it. In other words, whatever you get, you're not going to be able to enjoy it, or you won't be able to rejoice in it. I will continue reading. Because he hath oppressed and hath forsaken the poor, because he hath violently taken away an house which he built not. Surely he shall not feel quietness in his belly. He shall not save of that which is desired. Can you get the picture? He's saying all of the negative things that happen to wicked people or people that are not genuine toward God, if you please. He's saying all of these things to Job, but you always have to understand when we're reading, keep in mind who is talking and what their motives are. They're trying to prove that Job is a wicked man or a no good man because of the things that have came upon his life. Shall we read? There shall none of his food be left, therefore shall no man look for his goods. Well, nothing left for him. And even when he does have, no one will look for his goods in a retail sense, if you please. No one will look for the products that he would have to sell. Now, verse 22, in the fullness of his sufficiency, he shall be in strain. Every hand of the wicked shall come upon him. I'm going to continue reading. Shall he, when he is about to fill his belly, God shall cast the fury of his wrath upon him, and shall rain it upon him while he is eating. I will continue reading. He shall flee from the iron weapons, and the bow of bronze shall strike him through. Can you see? Now keep in mind what this man is talking about in his dialogue now. He's talking about the portion of the wicked, even though they may get a little bit for a time. He's trying to prove that it doesn't last, or whatever he does will end in ruin. And you have to understand that Job's life at this point was in ruin, because Job was an extremely wealthy man. And I'm going to say this while I'm on the subject. If you've never had something, you really don't miss it. Why? Because you never had it. But if you have had great wealth at one time, or great success at one time, and then all of a sudden it's gone, that's a altogether different feeling. Can you get the picture? You have tasted of that goodness, and now it's not there anymore. Can you get what how Job may have felt when they were talking to him in such ways, trying to parallel Job's life with a life of wickedness. I want you to get that now. In verse 25, it is drawn and cometh out of his body, yea, the glittering sword come out of his gall. Terror are upon him. Now get this now. The sword that come out of his mouth, even because Job cut them up pretty bad too, and let them know they're not all of that. Job's words rebutted everything that they said, but yet you have to understand Job's words were always referencing God and what God could do. These men were using a lifetime span of what they saw and even proverbs that they had read, and so they're referencing, giving Job that type of information where all Job does is talk about God and who is supreme and who is above all. Now let's read on. All darkness shall be laid up for his treasure. A fire not blown shall consume him. It shall go ill with him that is left in his tent. Now let's read on. The heavens shall reveal his iniquity, and the earth shall rise up against him. The increase of his house shall depart, and his goods shall flow away in the day of his wrath. For is the portion of the wicked man from God, and the heritage appointed unto him by God. Can you see what these men are saying to Job? And that was Zophar's last words there, the last verse that we read, trying to show Job why he's in the condition that he's in. I really don't know what they wanted. Job's sick, in trouble, boils all of his body. I guess they wanted Job to come up with some kind of repentant type thing and appease them and plead with them and tell them, yeah, I'm so wrong, I'm this, that, and the other. But you have to understand, God bragged on Job and said he was a perfect and an upright man. Now let's read, and we're going to the next chapter, chapter 21. Now Job is about to speak. Job's answer now to Zophar, and Job's message here: the sovereign God will deal with the wicked. In other words, he's going to let him know that God is sovereign, and he will deal with the wicked or anybody else that he needs to deal with. Now let's read on in verse 1. But Job answered and said, hear diligently my speech, and let this be your consolation. Bear with me that I may speak, and after that I have spoken, mock on. In other words, Job is saying, hear what I have to say now. Listen to my words, and then when I get through talking, you go ahead and mock on, because that's what you come here for now. You come to mock me, you come to belittle me, so you go ahead and mock on after you heard what I've said. Now let's read on in verse 4. As for me, in my complaint to man, and if it were so, why should not my spirit be troubled? Why wouldn't I be troubled? Especially after everything that's happened to me. And then even these railing accusations that you brought down here against me. Why shouldn't I be troubled? Mark me and be astonished and lay your hands upon your mouth. In other words, shut up. Lay your hands upon your mouth. Even when I remember, I am afraid and trembling taketh hold of my flesh. When I remember, Job could remember all of the times when he was wealthy. When he could also remember all of the people that he had helped and had lifted up. Can you get the picture? When he remembers this, trembling takes hold of my flesh, Job says. Now let's read on. Wherefore do the wicked live become old, yea, and yea, are mighty in power. Now let's read on. Well, he's letting him know that even the wicked have power. Let's read. Their seed is established in their sight with them, and their offspring before their eyes. Their houses are safe from fear, neither is the rod of God upon them. He's even talking about wicked men. Wicked men here now. Job is saying, so we have to understand and see that God is sovereign. He lets some people which are not right go for a time, and they seem to be doing well. And then some very good men, can you understand? Some very good men are hurt in times. And I will tell you this, most of you don't know, Satan gets involved when someone has a direct and a distinct calling in their lives. He wants to stop them. He wants to destroy whatever that they do. Verse 9, their houses are safe from fear, neither is the rod of God upon them. Their bull gendereth and faileth not. Their cow calveth and casteth not her calf. Can you see what Job is saying here now? They send forth their little ones like a flock, and their children dance. They take the timbrel and harp. In other words, they have music going on. They have like a party atmosphere going on, and rejoice at the sound of the flute. I will continue reading now in verse 13. They spend their days in wealth, and in a moment go down to hell. In other words, they have it good here on earth, but in a moment when they die, they still go to hell or go to the grave. And this word, Sheol, translated hell, which is the grave. Now get the picture. One of these days I will explain the difference when we talk about hell, because the words are translated from different words from the Greek. I won't take time to do that now, but let's read on in verse 14. Therefore they say unto God, depart from us, for we desire not the knowledge of thy ways. Can you see that many times people go all the way and seem like they're having great and prosperous lives, but when they die, that's when the story is going to be told. When they leave this earth, that's when they'll know if they've had a successful life. Shall we read on? What is the Almighty? That we should serve him, and what profit shall we have if we pray unto him? He asked the question. The Almighty talking about God. What is the Almighty, and what advantage to us when we pray to him? Now let's read on. Lo, their goods is not in their hand. The counsel of the wicked is far from me. The counsel of the evil ones or the wicked ones is far from me. Job said, how often is the lamp of the wicked put out, and how often cometh their destruction upon them? God distributed sorrow in his anger. Can you see? Job is given wisdom here. And yes, the wicked their troubles will happen as well. The wicked, God will come out against them. Job is answering and saying these things. Shall we read? They are as stubble before the winds, and the chaff that the storm carrieth away. In verse 19, God layeth up his iniquity for his children. He rewardeth him, and he shall know it. His eyes shall see his destruction, and he shall drink of the wrath of the Almighty. For what pleasure hath he in his house after him, when the number of his mouth is cut off? What pleasure will you have in them when the number of your mouth is cut off? In other words, when you die, when you're hushed, when your mouth is hushed, and you have nothing else to say, what pleasure are you going to get in now? And that is death, if you please. Verse 22. Shall any teach God knowledge, seeing that he judges those that are high? In other words, can you, me, or anyone else, can any of us teach God knowledge? We can't teach God anything. Why? Because he's God, and he already knows everything. I hope you're getting that picture. Shall we read on in 23? One dieth in his full strength, being wholly at ease and quiet. A man can die, a death can come and take a man's life when he's never been sick, never had a problem. He could just sit down and not get back up. Can you get the picture? Job is giving them wisdom because things can happen to anybody at any time. Verse 24, his breast are full of milk, and his bones are moistened with marrow. And another dieth in the bitterness of his soul, and never eateth with pleasure. They shall lie down alike in the dust, and the worm shall cover them. Can you get the picture? In other words, Job is saying, all of us are going to die. The one that had trouble on this earth, and the one that it seems like nothing had ever happened. When we get to the end, we're all at the same place. When we get to the end, we're all going to go to the grave. If you can understand what Job is saying to them. Now, verse 27. Behold, I know your thoughts and the devices which you wrongfully imagine against me. In other words, Job is just letting them know point blank. I know your thoughts. You've said all of these words, and I understand everything you say about me is wrongfully imagined against me. You thought these things up in your mind and came out with your words against me. Now, verse 28, for ye say, where is the house of the prince, and where are the dwelling places of the wicked? Have ye not asked them that go by the way, and do ye not know their evidence? In other words, have you ever really talked to anybody that's dead, that has died? No, you haven't. Have you ever talked to anyone that has gone through suffering and died versus those who never had a problem and died? Have you ever talked to any of them? Now let's read on in verse 30. The wicked is reserved to the day of destruction. They shall be brought forth to the day of wrath. Can you see the wicked in the end? They will know in the end God will judge all. And this life is really irrelevant. But the life after this, or the place that you go after this, you better think about that more than anything. In verse 31, who shall declare his way to his face, and who shall repay him for what he hath done? Question mark. In verse 32, yet shall he be brought to the grave, and shall remain in the tomb. I'm going to continue reading. My time is rapidly moving here. The clods of the valley shall be sweet unto him, and every man shall draw after him, as there are innumerable before him. Shall we read the last verse? How then comfort ye me in vain, seeing that in your answers there remaineth falsehood? Can you see what he's saying to his friends? How can you come and comfort me? Because even in your words there's falsehood. You come lying on me, if you please. In your words there is falsehood. Well, my dears, our time is just about ended for this session. I want you to know that I love you. I love you with the love of the Lord. God bless you, my dears.